Hello everyone, I'm Deepak, and today I'm going to take you through a data-driven story about carbon emissions. So we hear about climate change all the time, and what do the numbers really say? How much carbon dioxide emissions increased over the time? Which industries and countries contribute the most to the issues? And most importantly, what we can learn from the data to make better decisions for the future. Today, using Tableau, I have visualized key trends in global carbon emissions. This story will show us how the emissions have changed over the period and which sectors are responsible and how the different countries play a role, a vital role instead. By the end of this presentation, I hope we'll all have a clear understanding of the problem and the steps needed to create more sustainable future. So yeah, let's dive in and see what it reveals. So yeah, here let's start by looking at the bigger picture. How the global carbon emissions have changed over the time. This is how I have captured in our first visualization, which tracks total carbon emissions from fossil fuels over the year. What we see here is a clear and steady increase. Even with growing awareness and climate agreements like Paris Accord, emissions have continued to rise. This tells us that the current measures are not enough to curb the growth of carbon dioxide emissions. But to truly understand this problem, we need to dive in deeper and understand what it is. So yeah, to better understand where these emissions are coming from, we need to break down the sectors. So here we have few sectors like energy production, transportation, and manufacturing. And so this visualization categorizes emissions into different industries such as for energy production, transportation, and manufacturing. What we find is that energy sector is the largest contributor, followed by the transportation and the manufacturing. The growing demand for electricity and increasing vehicle ownership, maybe worldwide, have driven emissions higher. Unless these industries transition to cleaner energy sources, reducing emissions will be extremely difficult. So the same goes in the next slide as well. You can see the growth. You can see how electricity and heat industry has contributed the most to the growing carbon dioxide emissions, followed by the transportation and then followed by manufacturing. So here as well, you can see, but we can also see that there is a slight drop during the COVID period, during the pandemic period, when the transportation industry went down and also the manufacturing industry was almost stopped. And also there's a drop in electricity and heat generation industries as well. But hardly any industries try to curb to the norms, but there was no change. There was no actual change in the reduction of carbon dioxide emissions from the industries. So here, which countries emit the most? So yeah, let's take a look at emissions on a global scale. Which countries are the biggest emitters? Our next graph visualizes carbon dioxide emissions by countries, showing us that historically developed nations like USA and China and Russia, European countries have contributed the most. However, like in recent years, developing nations like India, Canada, Brazil, Indonesia are experiencing rising emissions as their economies expand. This means that policies must have tailored to be balance economic growth with sustainability. So what does all of this tell us? First, emissions continue to rise despite climate changes and policies. Second, energy production and transportation are the primary culprits. And third, while we develop, while the developed nations have been biggest emitters, developing nations are catching up quickly. So if we want to slow down climate change, we must invest in renewable energy, improve transportation efficiency, and enforce stricter emission regulations. The data makes it clear. Without immediate action, emissions will continue to grow, and the climate change will become an even greater threat to our planet. So this is the dashboard I have created. I have merged all the stories into it, and this is the dashboard I have created. So yeah, this Tableau analysis helps us see the real story behind carbon emission. But looking at the data is just the first step. The real question is, What will we do with this knowledge? If the government, companies, and individuals take actions, we can slow down emissions and protect our planet for the future generation. We all have a role to play. Understanding the problem is the first step. Now it's time to be a part of the solution. Thank you.